Are you a rookie or are you an experienced veteran? I know a lot of you guys might be wondering how you would fare in a combat unit. What would people think of you? And overall, would you be alright? Well, lucky for you, you don't have to imagine. For the last 10 years of my life, I've been your guinea pig. I've recorded a lot, I have a lot of stories to share with you guys of just how much of a rookie I am. And some of the mistakes that I made in the past that I don't want you guys to replicate if something were to happen. So let's get into it. First of all, they are not complacent. Stay that way. If you're a rookie, if you're a new guy, no matter how cool that veteran looks when he does something that seems dangerous, it's because he's lived in it so long. He is the war. He knows everything about the environment he's in. In Vietnam, soldiers would hear the trees talking back to them. They could smell the Viet Cong from a mile away. That's something that only comes from enduring and experience. One of the marks of an amateur is to fit in. So if they see experienced guys carefully balancing their actions, but sometimes standing upright during shelling or using a flashlight in certain circumstances, they're gonna try and replicate them to be cool, to be one of them. But it almost always never goes well because they take it too far. They don't know that there's this careful balance that the experienced guy is doing. A lot of times it's the younger guys who don't have a fear of death because they're young, they're invincible. Nothing bad could happen to them. It's gonna happen to everybody else around them. And other times, it's just their attitude of things. One of the worst parts about being a foreign fighter in any of these wars is being American. We have a personality that everybody knows in these war zones. The local fighters do, as well as the internationals. Americans have a bad name. We can be quite off-putting if we don't keep our ego in check. But nonetheless, that was a little tangent. The rookies that I've seen in war, they don't know what's gonna kill them. When I was on the front line, there was a time an enemy Mavic drone was right above us. It was calling in artillery in a different position behind us. We were already forward of what they were looking at. But I had a clear shot. I could have taken it out. One shot, boom. But last second, I was stopped by my much more experienced team leader who pointed out that if you shoot it, then they will know there's a guy with a rifle right near where they were flying that shot them down. And then they're gonna return to investigate more. If you get in the way of this cheap drone doing a very important mission, then they're gonna take you out. And that's a weird part that I found in war is that it's not just killing and, yep, you see an enemy thing, you fire at it. It's mostly just a cat and mouse game where you're trying to survive. Now, on the contrary of that Mavic mission that I was talking about, there was another one where I was digging a position. You guys know the story. I shot down a Mavic drone. But before that, a couple drones stopped by to watch us. At first, our reaction was to point our rifles at them, but not shoot them down. We didn't know if they're friendly, if they're enemy. Then when we started getting hit, I was given the command to shoot it down, which I did. It's situational, and it's not something you're taught. So you have to watch out for the bigger picture. And new guys, including myself in that moment, didn't understand that. Now that's my next point, is that in a lot of these wars, I wasn't the new guy, but because the war changes so much within 6 months, or if you go to a different role, I became an FPV engineer, but before that I was a Mavic operator, and before that I was infantry. Each role changes so fast. So what we see a lot of the new guys do is that they come into our unit, or they come into the war that we're in, and they had military experience from 2 years prior. Maybe it was really good training. They were in the Marines, they were in the Rangers, they were in this army, in this role. And it's great. They can take a lot of those pointers to help them on the battlefield, but they try and prove themselves with their resume and say, hey, I did this and this and this. If I were to do the same thing, no matter the experiences that I have, if I were to go to Ukraine right now, after a year out of the game, not being in a combat unit, nobody should take me seriously. I give you guys some pretty general ideas of the Ukrainian battlefield. I give you some general pointers, but I would never give you specifics because the war changed. It changes all the time. But these new guys, they like to come in with a resume. They try and prove themselves to the guys who've been around a lot, and sometimes they'll go a little too far and they'll say, I know what's best. We need to do CQB my way, the way that we did in the Marine Corps 5 years ago. We need to do it this way because in Iraq, because I was in Iraq, we did this in a convoy. It's very outputting, and it's not something that the experienced veterans do. Now, in contrast, the experienced guy is willing to learn anything from anybody at any point. I've served with incredibly experienced guys from years prior that have way more combat experience than myself. But even they humble themselves to the guys who've been out in the field just a week ago. They take advice, they take scrutiny. There is no room for pride or ego. The rookies, in my experience, much like myself when I was on my first deployments, we don't take scrutiny, we don't take advice. We know what's best. So overall, they're gonna talk more and listen less. They're always gonna have something to add during the briefing before a patrol. They're always gonna have something to say, like, oh, what about this? What about this? And yes, they can provide something great, but to change tactics that are used right now. For instance, when we were starting off in Ukraine, we were very confused why a lot of the Ukrainians were patrolling in a ranger file in the middle of the field. So in our first patrols, we were going in staggered columns. We're going in large movements of platoon-size elements. That way, we have all the weaponry available to us. But after a couple patrols, we learned There's mines. That's why they're doing it. There's mines, there's drones. We need to go in small teams. We need to be in a ranger file, nice, closely connected. That way we're not creating too big of a signature. Because if they find us with a drone, we're dead. We're smoked. So that was something we all had to learn. These guys that we consider not well trained, well, they have a reason they're still alive and they're doing what they're doing. The next thing is that I've seen a lot of new guys, and I'm talking about myself as well in the beginning, complaining a lot. Anything that doesn't go their way, anything that they disagree with, complain. Oh my God, why do we have to dig this? Why doesn't the command pick this spot for a position? Why don't they let us go here? And it's just a common misunderstanding that commands are different. Militaries are different. You know, when you go to a different war, everything has changed. It does not go the same way that it did in the Marine Corps or the Army back home. Things are run different here, and there are rules for different reasons. The next one is more tactical, but they bring too much gear. All right, I've been in that situation as well. I've talked about it in a video that I just put out, talking about the gear that I brought to me in Iraq. The learning lesson that I had in Iraq was this gear that I had on is not gonna fit in the tunnels. It's, you know, it doesn't make sense for the rapid movement we have to have as a guerrilla team. So then I looked at the Kurds, who I thought, oh, they're ill-trained. They don't have the training that I have or the experience that I have. Well, they're still alive. They've been fighting since they were 14 years old. And they run with no plates at all, a slick vest that has a couple magazines and frags. And that's it. Why do they do that? Well, it's because of tunnels. It's because they have to be QRF. So I changed out my gear. I listened to them. I brought down my pride and ego of the things that I was taught in a different time and place in war, and I was a lot more effective because of it. The next one is understanding of the battlefield. Knowing when dangers will appear and what to do in those instances is a big one. My first time rolling up to the front line, you guys can watch it in real time. You can't feel the concussion, you can't have your ears ringing, but you can see it. And you can see that sudden realization of us being in it. Even then, 5 minutes before we had arrived there, we were on the road and there was artillery that splashed where we were just a minute before. That was something that I understood, even as a rookie, I would see and witness. And it didn't surprise me or scare me as much as being there when they did impact right around me. It's something that experience gives you, is just understanding what's for you, what's not. Veterans know the reactions they can expect for different actions on the battlefield, whether it's crossing from one bunker to another, and at what distance they are. At this distance, they can expect this, and at this one, they can expect this. And here's where you cut off the lights to your car. They know the difference between being targeted or not. This takes a while, but every time I was being targeted as a Maverick operator on my first mission out there, I thought it was for me. You know, that goes for everybody that's new. Oh my God, you know, they're coming for me. They saw me. But the other guys were able to gauge how far away it is in the routine. The decibels drop ever so slightly, and the experienced guys who's been out there for a long time, they can gauge how far away it is, or if it's for them, and what kind of round it is. What trajectory is it taking? What direction is it coming from? A couple grad missiles near you doesn't mean they are after you. The veteran knows that's what they do to bracket. They launch a couple, they see the splashes, and then they adjust to the other target, and then send that entire volley. That was something I had to be taught. When I went to the other Mavic position on my first or second mission last year, a couple grad missiles hit within the canal that we were in, the Chasiv Canal, not more than 50 meters away. There was a big boom, there was a concussion, but none of the Ukrainians batted their eyes. And when I asked them why, they said, oh, it's just grad. Yeah, they're not coming for us. They're just trying to bracket. That's, you know, they do that every once in a while. It's all right. You know, like, how do you even know that? Well, that's exposure. That's experience. I've been hit by grad more times than I like to count. Not actually hit, obviously on one piece, but you know, it's happened a lot. But the war changes, and a year after I was hit by grad, times are different. Every battlefield, every sector of the battlefield is different, and there's, you know, you have to listen to experience. And that's all I want to say. You know, I'm sure I could expand on this, talk a little bit more about the differences between a rookie and experience, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be going into your first deployment, listen to the guys around you, understand the training that you have, but then adapt it. Listen to the guys who've been there longer than you, even a week or two, and they're going to teach you a lot. Keep your mind open, keep your pride down, humble yourself to others around you, and you're going to be a lot better operator. Trust me. All right. Well, that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.